I went to the hospital to take care of my wife, who had a broken bone. While she was sleeping, the head nurse placed a piece of paper in my hand and said, "Don't come back. Check the camera." And look, I had been married for 7 years. I was always the devoted husband, the kind who dropped everything to be by her side. That day, I canceled important meetings at work. I left projects and finished, all because she called me in desperation, saying she had fallen and broken her arm. But if you're enjoying this story, leave a like now and comment below which city you're watching from. That helps the channel grow a lot and motivates me to bring more stories every day. Now, come back here. When I received that note, my world stopped. The head nurse was a woman in her 50s. One of those serious professionals you look at and immediately know they've lived through a lot. She didn't smile, didn't blink. She just placed the paper in my hand and walked away. My wife was sleeping in that hospital bed, her arm in a cast, her face pale, and there I was holding a note telling me not to come back and to check the camera. What camera? The hospital's. The one at home. My heart started racing. I left the room trying to look calm, but my hands were shaking. I went to the reception desk and asked to speak to the head nurse. She took me to a private room and closed the door. I asked what was going on. She took a deep breath and said, "I shouldn't do this, but I'm a mother and I wouldn't be able to sleep in peace. Your wife didn't fall. She arrived here alone, walking normally, and asked us to say it was an accident. She offered money for some staff members to lie." I felt my legs go weak. I asked how she broke her arm. The nurse said she didn't know for sure, but that my wife was nervous, checking her phone all the time, and insisted that I be called immediately. She continued, "We have cameras at the entrance and in the parking lot." I was able to access them because the situation seemed strange. She arrived driving, parked, stayed inside the car for almost 20 minutes on the phone. Then she came in alone, holding her arm. I thanked her and left completely lost. I went to my car and sat there, trying to process everything. My wife had lied. She staged an accident. But why? And what would the camera at my house show? We had installed a security system 3 months earlier. I opened the app on my phone and accessed the recordings. I rewound to a few hours before she went to the hospital. Everything seemed normal at first. She was at home using the computer, making coffee. I fast-forwarded. Ten primera sa WA italiano. A strange car stopped in front of my house. A man got out tall, handsome, well-dressed. My wife opened the door before he even rang the bell. They hugged, and it wasn't a friendly hug. It was intimate, long. I felt the anger rising, but I kept watching. They went inside. I switched between the living room and kitchen cameras. They were talking, laughing. He touched her arm. She leaned her head on his shoulder. My stomach turned. Then the argument started. From their movements, I could tell she was angry, gesturing a lot. He tried to calm her down, but she pushed him. He grabbed her arms. She tried to break free. That's when it happened. She stumbled backward and hit her arm hard on the corner of the coffee table, the heavy marble table I had bought myself. She fell to the floor screaming. He panicked and tried to help, but she yelled at him to leave. He ran out, got in the car, and drove away. She stayed on the floor for about 5 minutes, crying and holding her arm. Then she got up, grabbed her phone, and kajed me. That was the call I received, with her crying and saying she had fallen. I stopped the video and just stood there. 7 years of marriage. 7 years believing we had something solid, and she was cheating on me and worse. She created this whole accident farce to hide her lover. I took a deep breath and went back into the hospital. I passed the reception desk and went up to her room. She was still sleeping. She looked so fragile there, so innocent, but I knew the truth. I sat in the chair next to the bed and waited for her to wake up. When she opened her eyes, she smiled at me. That smile I had known for so long. She asked if I was okay, said I must be tired. I replied that I was great and just wanted to make sure she was okay. She started telling her version of the story, that she was going down the stairs at home carrying a heavy box, lost her balance, tried to hold on, but fell awkwardly. Every word was a lie, every detail invented, but I didn't say anything. I just listened, nodded, and held her hand. Inside, I was planning every step of what would come next. Because if there's one thing I learned over all these years, it's that revenge is a dish best served cold. Over the next few days, I was the perfect husband. I brought her breakfast, in bed. I helped with her bath, her clothes, everything. She stayed home resting, and I told her I had taken a few days off work to take care of her. But in reality, I was investigating. I went through her laptop while she slept. I found the messages, hundreds of them, with a guy named Philippe. They had been together for 8 months. 8 months of meetings, plans, promises. I read everything. Every message was like a stab wound. She told him she loved him, that I was boring, predictable, dull, that he was everything she had always wanted, that she was waiting for the right moment to ask for a divorce. He asked when she would tell me. She always stalled, saying she needed more time, that I was emotionally dependent on her, that she was afraid of how I would react, afraid of me. Me, who had always been patient and understanding. But the worst was yet to come. I discovered that this Philippe was my coworker, not on the same team. but at the same company. He worked in the marketing department. I passed him in the hallways, greeted him, sometimes even ate lunch at the same restaurant, and he knew she was my wife. He knew and didn't care. In fact, according to the messages, that made everything more exciting for him. The risk, the danger of being discovered, it was all part of the adrenaline for them. I took screenshots of everything, saved them in multiple places, copied the security camera videos, and organized everything into a detailed folder with dates, times, and conversations. Every piece of evidence was carefully cataloged. Then I scheduled a meeting with my lawyer. I explained everything and showed him the proof. He was impressed by the level of detail and said he rarely saw cases so well documented. We started preparing the divorce process, but I didn't want just a divorce. I wanted her to feel the weight of the consequences. So I asked the lawyer to include a claim for moral damages for the adultery, for the elaborate lie about the accident, for everything. He said we had a strong case. Meanwhile, at home, she continued living the farce. Her arm was improving. She started talking about doing things together again once she fully recovered, planning a trip, renewing our vows, having children. She wanted to have children with me while maintaining an affair with another man. The audacity was impressive, but I just smiled and agreed, knowing everything would soon collapse for her. 2 weeks after the accident, she was much better. The cast was still on, but she could do almost everything on her own. That's when my lawyer called and said everything was ready. I chose a Friday night. I prepared a special dinner at home. I lit candles, played music, opened an expensive bottle of wine we had been saving for a special occasion. She was moved and said I was the most romantic man in the world. We had dinner, talking about trivial things. She was radiant, happy, probably relieved that I hadn't discovered anything. When we finished eating, I took a folder that had been hidden under the couch and placed it on the table. She looked curious and asked what it was. I said it was a gift she needed to see. She opened it, smiling. The smile disappeared in 3 seconds when she saw the first printed photo. It was a screenshot of her messages with Philippe, the one where she called me boring and predictable. She turned pale and tried to say something, but I asked her to keep looking. There was more. Photo after photo of the conversations. Screenshots from the security cameras showing Philippe entering my house. Images of her hugging him. The sequence of the fight in the fall that caused the broken arm. And finally, the divorce papers. Everything ready, just waiting for her signature. She started crying, apologizing, saying she could explain, but there was no explanation that could change what she had done. I told her I had known everything for 2 weeks, that I took care of her that entire time, knowing about the betrayal, that I pretended everything was fine while organizing my exit. She was in shock and asked how I managed to pretend so well. I said I learned from the best. After all, she had been pretending for 8 months. 2 people can play the same game, right? The difference is that I played better. She begged us to talk, to try couples therapy, but it was already decided. I grabbed my suitcase also prepared under the couch and said I was going to a hotel, that her lawyer would receive the official papers on Monday, and that she had 1 week to leave the house, since it was in my name. She screamed that I couldn't do that, that she had rights. I agreed she did. That's why the lawyer was handling everything legally. But considering the evidence of adultery and fraud, she probably wouldn't get much. As I was leaving, she asked about Philippe if I was going to tell the company. I smiled and said I had already sent an anonymous email to the Human Resources Department with some of the evidence. Relationships that caused conflicts of interest were not allowed. I left that house and never went back. In the following days, I heard through mutual friends that she had a nervous breakdown. She called Philippe in desperation, but he had already blocked her everywhere. The company's HR department opened an investigation. Philippe was fired for violating the company's code of conduct. My ex-wife had to move back in with her parents because she couldn't afford to rent an apartment on her own. She lost friends who sided with me after learning the story. And I went to therapy to process everything. It wasn't easy. 7 years of marriage don't disappear overnight. There were nights when I cried, felt anger, and questioned everything. But each day got a little easier. The divorce was finalized 6 months later. She tried to contest it, but the evidence was irrefutable. She ended up signing everything. She received nothing beyond what she brought into the marriage. The house, the car, the savings, everything stayed with me. Today, 1 year later, I'm in a much better place. I met new people, reconnected with old friends, and even started dating again. I learned that loyalty and honesty are non-negotiable for me. And you know what's funny? I received a message from her a few months ago, apologizing again, saying she was wrong, that she loved me, that she missed me. I left it unanswered. Some bridges are better left burned. The head nurse from the hospital, I sent her flowers and a thank you card. After everything, she could have stayed quiet, but she chose to warn me. Sometimes a stranger shows more consideration than someone who swore to love you forever. So, that's Italiano. If you made it this far, thank you very much for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed the story and comment which city you're watching from. I want to know where the people who follow the channel are from. And if you're not subscribed yet, subscribe, there's a new story every day.